Yo, 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 what is going on, everybody? I want to welcome you guys to another Right to Real Love live show. Tonight, we got a great topic, and as y'all can see, we got an amazing panel of guests. We got some first timers, we got some returning guests, and we definitely got my lovely co host, Tatiana. Tatiana, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. It's a bittersweet night, but we're gonna make it through.
Yes,
Happy
man.
to
Yo,
be
it's
here.
gonna be more sweet than bitter. I promise you that. Even though it may be our last show, we about to rock out. We're gonna have a great time. It's going to be fun. So, first and foremost, I want to introduce you guys to our panel of guests. We'll start with those who are new. So, let me start with the ladies first. So, Rel, would you mind introducing yourself to our viewers? Let them know a little bit about you.
Hello, I am Sorel Bay. I am the host of the Pillow Talk with Sorel Bay on YouTube. I'm also a single parent, which is sort of why I'm here tonight to share this panel with you all. Aside from that, I'm a rapper, poet, and mama.
Oh yeah, yo, you are doing your thing, Sorrel. Yo, you guys, if you haven't already, go check out her channel. Show her some love and support. You definitely will not be disappointed. I can tell you that. And coming up to my man Jamal, what's going on, bro? Definitely introduce yourself. Let our viewers know a little bit about you.
Yes, sir. Jamal Nolan. You can find me on YouTube here. I'm with Jamal Nolan. I kind of like to look at my channel and my platform as it is actually the biggest platform on YouTube for motivational videos for Black people specifically. I absolutely love what I do on YouTube, but I kind of center all my content around the Black community and kind of heavily focus on them. And I'm a videographer as well. Married, been married for 8 years, got a 2-year-old kid. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh man, it's truly an honor, bro. Thank you so much for joining us. And our other first-time guest, my man Daniela. What is going on with you, man? Just introduce yourself to the people. Let them know a little bit about you.
Hey. My name is Daniela, and I'm currently tuning in from New Zealand. I'm not a content creator. My profession has been in construction for the last 10 plus years. And out of the better half of that career, I've been fortunate enough to become a construction manager. So in that time, I've seen some tremendous shift in the men's space, especially around mental health. And there has been a huge calling for me in terms of tuning in, seeing what the world's sort of doing around that space. And funnily enough, I've come across some what we currently call in society now as red pill content and that sort of stuff. And although some of the concept I agreed with, a majority of it was sort of unrealistic to the average man. So, I mean, tonight's a opportunity for me to sort of tune in, and once again, thank you to you, Jay, for allowing me on the platform, and to everyone else on the panel. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Oh yeah, man. Yo, it's definitely an honor, man, especially with you tuning in and joining us all the way from New Zealand. Definitely got to give a shout out to my man Will for connecting us, man. I appreciate him for doing that and excited to have you on this show with us tonight. Before we come over to our returning guest, we do have some comments coming through in the chat. Want to give some shout outs really quickly. So first and foremost, we had a message from Tiffany. She says, Jay and Tatiana, thank you so much for these weekly live shows with such remarkable guests. I must say, I'm saddened that this is the last show, but may God continue to bless the work that you are doing. And we got my man JD Carter. What's going on? Shout out to you, bro. He said it's good to be here. Shout out to my bro Jay and the panel. We got my girl Brittany in the building. What's going on, Brittany? She says, excited to catch the last live. Always a great discussion and loads of wisdom. I'm a single mom, so be gentle. Yo, I promise you, we're going to be kind. It's going to be a great conversation. It's going to be something that we all can take away from it. I promise you that. And one other one from Tiffany. She says, hello, Jay, Tatiana, and all the guest panelists. We missed you last week, Mr. CEO, and glad you are back. Also, great to see my man, Black Belt, and the new guest. Blessings. And we got Bourbon in the building. What's going on? Welcome to this show. We appreciate it. And yeah, JD, man, it is the last show for tonight, but we'll talk a little bit about that as the show progresses. But first and foremost, let's have our returning guests introduce themselves to the people. My man, CEO, go ahead and introduce yourself to those who may not be familiar with you.
As the name says, it's Mr. CEO status. Same name on Instagram and TikTok. I feel like I'm a family member of the show, and I'm kind of heartbroken that this is going to be the last live, but I'm pretty sure the next platform that you encounter, I'm pretty sure we'll find some way to reconnect.
Most definitely, bro. And y'all already know me, man. Yo, I'm always doing something new. Why We Succeed is going to just take it to a whole nother level. We're going to be focusing on increasing the amount of Black entrepreneurs. That's something that is near and dear to my heart. And I promise you, we will eventually do live shows over there and bring over some amazing professionals, entrepreneurs, and successful influencers to have conversations about how we can increase the amount of Black entrepreneurs. But for tonight, we still talking about relationships. This is going to be a great conversation. And I want y'all to say what's up to my man, the one and only Black Belt. What's going on with you, bro?
What's going on? What's going on? I'm honored to be a part of the last episode, and it's been great watching you and Tatiana, put in work. It's been an honor.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, man. It's truly been an honor having you join almost from the very beginning. And that definitely means a lot to me, man. It does. And we will be showing some love to those of you who have been joining us from the very start. But tonight, we got a great topic. We're talking about the pros and the cons on dating single moms. So I want to kick things off with what I think is a pretty easy question, just to kind of get a feel for everybody's opinions and thoughts in the room. So let's start with ladies first. Sorrel, coming down to you, why do you think some single moms are judged, or do you think some single moms are judged unfairly on the dating scene? What's your take on
that? I will say yes, some are being judged unfairly, but at the same time, looking at the situation realistically, it is a challenge, right? To date a single mother, because you're no longer dealing with just one person, you're dealing with that person and her children. So depending on the values, what kind of home training they got, all these things come into consideration. But I think recently we've been hearing a lot of negative comments, putting everyone in one little basket. And I think it's unfair to a certain degree.
Okay, I hear that. Okay, so coming up to the men, Jamal, what's your take? Do you think some single moms are judged unfairly on the dating scene?
Absolutely, man. It's not no doubt about it. It's unfair. They kind of get a bad rep. You know, they have a kid, and it's what they have to deal with. But I think they just looked at a certain way, which is unfortunate. And I think we all here, I don't know everybody's age, but we all here are pretty grown adults, man. Everybody has a kid at this point. So it's unfair to judge people for their situation. But yeah, I do think they get a bad rep for sure.
Okay. And Daniela, what's your take? Do you think that some single mothers are being judged unfairly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I agree with Jamal in that sense. I myself is currently in a long-term relationship. I'd like to classify it as a marriage, even though I don't believe in the sense of marriage as it traditionally is. And I've been with her for almost 7 years now. And it is challenging dating single mothers, but at the same time, I think what most are sort of held up on is that you have a physical evidence of a man's imprint. So therefore, the buyers cannot get over that. So in most situations, and unfortunately, social media paint a really bleak pictures on single mothers, and that tends to be the narrative for what most judgment is. But like Jamal said, we're adults. You can make your own judgment and get out in the dating market and see what it is for what it is.
That's real. CEO, what's your take?
I think it's unfair because there's certain labels and expectations that come with dating a single mom that don't necessarily exist with someone who doesn't have any kids. And I mean, for me personally, I think it doesn't define that particular individual, but society is really big on labels. And once they place labels on individuals, it's kind of hard to shake those labels, fair or unfair.
All right, I hear that. And my man Black Belt, what is your take?
I think there are definitely, as you said, I definitely think there are some groups, some single moms who are unfairly criticized, or at least just insane prejudices are placed on them without being known. But I'm also of the mindset that I don't think there's anything wrong with people necessarily maybe having a strong aversion to it. I don't support, I don't support having 3-hour broadcasts about how single moms are trash. I mean, if you think single moms are trash, that's cool. But I don't support having a full out YouTube channel dedicated to that.
Right. I
Not
agree with
referring to
you.
anyone specifically, just saying in general.
Nah, I mean, by all means, I do think that would be a tad bit out of place. But hey, everybody chooses how they run their own platform. Tatiana, coming down to you, sharing another woman's perspective. Do you think that some single moms are unfairly judged?
Yeah, I think so because it seems like people, like someone said earlier, tend to put them all in the same category when they're single mothers for different reasons, where they become a single mother for one reason or another, different situations. And I think, it's hard to say that we shouldn't judge people, but unfortunately we do. We're human beings. We like to compartmentalize and put people in categories and try to filter out who's valuable or who's worthy of our time. But um, and we don't extend enough grace or get enough context of that person's story to really understand where they're coming from or how they got to that point. So it takes a different kind of person or different kind of grace to be with someone who has children in general. So, but we'll probably talk about that later, but I agree with everybody.
All right. Okay. So we did have a comment that came in from Tiffany. She says, unfortunately, one negative experience with one hold on, has been allowed to, I think she corrected it here, unfairly paint the pool of all single moms. And yeah, I think that that's something that we can all say occurs in different aspects of life where somebody has an experience with one person and then they extrapolate that experience onto an entire group of people. And yeah, that's definitely something that we see happening in our society for sure. So before we move on to the next question, did either of you have any questions that you like to throw out there for the panel or for anybody in particular before I go to our next one? All right. All right, cool, cool. Looks like everybody's good.
Wait, I'm
So
sorry.
my
Who's either of you
or
or
for
anyone?
anybody, for
Oh, okay.
anybody.
Never
Yeah.
mind.
No?
No.
No questions? Okay. Okay, cool. So here we go. Next question. And I want to come over to my man CEO with this one. Why do you think some men are not interested in dating single moms?
If it's a man who doesn't have children, the and if it's a man who does, depending upon his relationship with his own children, he may not want to step in and feel that responsibility of being a step parent or a parent or a male role model per se. But you do have those men, which kind of mind boggling, who they take better care of their significant others' kids than they do their own. It also has something to do possibly with the relationship that he might have had with his own father, especially if his father was absent. And if it was a pattern that has happened from generation to generation, he may not know how to break that particular pattern. Like I said, he may not want the responsibility of being more than just a boyfriend or a husband and being a role model and a parent at the same time. So for some guys, if they don't know how to accept that responsibility and they don't have a clear picture of growing up what that actually looked like, it's kind of hard for them to embrace that.
Nah, that's good. And I'm gonna stick with the fellas, and then I'm gonna come to the ladies to get your thoughts after all of the men have shared their thoughts on this question. But first, want to give a shout out JD Clay for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. She says, "Good evening to the panel and the chat mates." So I want to come over to you, Daniela. What would you say in response to this question? Why are some men not feeling dating single moms?
Yeah, I agree with CEO in the sense that majority of these men have probably haven't weren't brought up in an environment where uh, you know where they had the experience of, like, for example, I think this might be a little bit clearer. My upbringing was I was adopted out to my auntie, so I grew up in a household where there were two other adopted kids who were my brothers and sisters. So therefore, I think growing up, my own basis on relationship was slightly biased in terms of the average man who grows up with mother and father in the household. And I think most men that come from that background don't usually have that paternal feeling in the sense of, I've gone through a certain experience. Biologically, these aren't my kids, but I've seen and experienced situations where there was good that come out of that situation. So in my own personal journey in life, I was able to go through that bias. Therefore, when I was dating my partner, that really wasn't an issue. But then turning the other side of the coin, I can understand from good friends of mine and other men in the space where they probably haven't experienced what it's like, to see a mother or a father very closely to them raising another man's child or another woman's child. So I think it's just based on the environment that we grew up with, and I guess also experience. Maybe they've had a relationship that didn't turn out so well for them, and that might be what sort of skews the decisions in that situation.
I really appreciate you for opening up and providing some context around your upbringing. And I think you make an excellent point. The environment that we grow up in, the things that we witness definitely play a role in how we respond to certain situations, whether we want to engage in certain relationships with people or, kind of take a step back from it. So that's a really great point. And coming over to you, Black Belt, what's your take? Why do you think some men are opposed to dating single moms?
I would say I think it could be a good number of things, frankly. I think some guys, as a one line conclusion, I think at least for a good group of them, they just don't see what the benefit is in them participating in it. And what I mean by that is a lot of guys, or at least I'll just say some of my friends, my personal friends I've spoken to, because I conversed with them about this before even coming on. And the general consensus of it is I'm not understanding what really I get out of this going into a situation where, essentially, even if I don't have to play, step up all the way and be a father, it would be ridiculous for him to expect that the woman's going to say, I don't expect you to do anything for my kid if you're going to be around, we're in a serious relationship or have no type of interaction whatsoever, assuming we're going long term. And then I think a lot of guys also, their experience, at least in the Black community, 8 out of 10 babies are born out of wedlock. I think for a lot of Black, or just guys, period, we'll just say a lot of guys, they just think, why am I jumping into this situation for at least some of the women where you didn't do the due diligence and pick right the first time? So why am I coming in essentially and playing a superhero saving? That's what I have to say. That's what some guys probably feel like.
Yeah, and I appreciate you for sharing that. So before we come over to my man Jamal, just want to quickly get some shout outs to some of the comments in the chat. So welcome to the show, F Doctor. We appreciate you joining us. Says hello. Hope you all are doing well. To the male panelists. Okay, I'm gonna save that question. I'm gonna definitely ask that question, but I'll save it for now, F Doctor. But we'll come back to that and we'll get their experiences for sure. Also want to give a shout out to V Sanchez. What's going on? So glad to have you joining us tonight. My girl Tanisha's in the building. She says hello to the panel and the chat mates. We appreciate you for coming in. And Bourbon says, I think a reason could be is the perceived idea of having to step up to the plate and be a father figure. Exactly. And then I think she also had a second comment that came in and says, and it's a different situation if it doesn't work out. Now, not only are you breaking up with the parent, but the children too. That could be harder if you become attached. And we had one comment that just came in from Princess. We appreciate you for joining us. She says she's had men like her, and as soon as she disclosed that she had a child, he automatically assumed that she came with baby daddy drama and didn't want any parts of it. So we're definitely going to talk about that as well. I'm going to make sure I star that comment so we can come back to it. But let's hear Jamal's perspective. Our other male on the panel. What's your take, man?
So I had 2 points in my head. The first one is commitment. Most men, and I don't want to say all, but a lot of men are not really up for commitment in the first place. So adding a baby in there or a kid in there as additional commitment level. And a lot of guys are already afraid to commit in the first place. So you add in a child, which is a huge commitment on both ends. A lot of people just not up for that. And then the second one will go to the comment that Princess just left, which is that there could be potential drama. And some people just don't want to invite that into their life. Not all co-parenting situations are toxic or filled with negativity, but the perception is that it is. And if it isn't, then maybe you deal with some type of jealousy issues of, well, why y'all so cool? Some guys might almost prefer that you have a problem with them, so you don't have to worry about it. But it is just having a baby in general, or kid, I'll say, makes the situation so tricky. And I think that a lot of men don't want to do it for the commitment reasons, or strictly because they don't want to deal with drama, any that could occur.
I hear that. All right. So, ladies on the panel, y'all heard from all of our gentlemen. I appreciate y'all being so patient. Sorrel, coming down to you, what's your take on what the gentleman had to say, and what do you personally think with regards to some men having no interest in dating single moms?
I agree with everything that's been said so far. And I think also, I think a lot of men are afraid. Some of them are not afraid. Some of them, that's just not what they want, which I think is fair as long as they know it, and they make it clear and they don't go into the situation pretending to be something that they're not. And I think those who don't want to may have their own reasons. Like, let's say a man who wants to travel, live his life, he wants to have his girlfriend or his wife available to him to attend to his needs. We all know that children are a priority. So let's say you go into a marriage, now you have to make the children who are not your biological children a priority. So that can be very difficult for some people to do, just in general, children that you didn't raise. So it takes a lot of, I don't know if emotional intelligence is the right word, but it takes a lot of willpower. You have to want to do something like that in order to engage in that kind of relationship. And yeah, I think some men are also afraid of the judgment. What are their families going to think? What are the boys going to think? What is the manosphere going to say? So yeah, that's
That's
my take
good.
on it.
That's really good. Yo, I appreciate you for sharing that. And you made some excellent points as well. Tatiana, as a woman, what's your take?
Yeah, I also agree with what everybody said on the panel. Like, there's so many different perspectives on how we can address this. To me, like, the one thing that I think about is like maybe guys who desire marriage and they're considering someone, maybe they want to start from scratch in terms of building their family up. Like, they had an idea, like, I want to have kids that look like me and my wife, and they don't want to have a starter family already. So in their mind, they want to have kids when on their timeline or when they're ready for that. And outside of like, getting with someone who already has a child.
All right. Okay. So I want to go back to F Doctor's question. She kind of beat me to the punch. I was actually going to go there next, and it was just perfect. So, which is getting the experience of the men on the panel with regards to dating single mothers, whether or not you have or whether you would. And as you can see, she says, if, why, or why not. So let's just go across the board. So let's start with you, Daniela. Have you or would you consider dating a single mom?
Yeah, great question. And like I was alluding to before, I'm with one. And I don't, this is it for me. Growing up, my father did a very good job of showing me what a family was. And what was most important to him was not so much where the children came from, obviously from having free adopted children in his care, but it was more so he was raising the next generation. He will do the best he can in order to instill certain values that he deemed at the moment that was beneficial for us. So I'm with one, obviously going on 7 years now. This is it, in the sense that this is marriage for me. And going into the whole dating with my partner, it's not so much any different from dating, say, a woman without a child. It's just that her priorities now are slightly different. Her focus on her child, how she's going to survive as a single mother in the world where, predominantly there are many things that we now have to do. It's no longer the traditional man and woman have a child. The man solely focus on providing, protecting. It's a completely different new world. So my reason, like I explained prior, was that because I came from the environment, didn't really look at it any different to dating anyone else. So in terms of sort of anyone going into that space, you have to really acknowledge what you're in there for. And I think there was an earlier comment that there's a child involved. So there's a huge dynamic there that you have to consider. And as we all know, children tend to imprint on different character that walks into their life. So is that a burden that you want to take on not so much burden, but a responsibility you want to take on if you're not fully committed, because you potentially can leave and the child will commit you to memory, and throughout that whole experience, we never know how that experience might turn their lives around. So yeah.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you for sharing your experience, man. And as you can see from the comment, F Doctor is definitely appreciative as well. Thank you for sharing your experience. So coming over to you, Jamal, have you or would you date a single mom?
To answer the first question, I have not. I've been off the dating scene for a long time. I didn't even know too many single moms 10 years ago. Uh, I don't think it was that many 10 years ago. Things have changed real quickly. But or not in my age range at that time, but I thought a couple years ago, I'm gonna say 3 years ago, I thought that I would date a single parent, or I mean a single mother. But since I have my own kid, I wouldn't, because I'm so serious about my child. Like I don't want my son around nobody under no circumstances. So I give a lot of kudos to people that allow their kids to be around other individuals. I am absolutely terrified of it. And because I'm terrified of it, like for instance, I wouldn't date somebody if I was single. I wouldn't date somebody and have them around my child. And I wouldn't want to be around somebody else's kid because there's just so many complications and there's so much trouble and he say, she say, and then also in parenting styles and ideology on how you raise your kid or what's acceptable and not acceptable. Like for instance, I don't I never whoop my kid. I don't yell at my kid. I don't do anything. I treat my 2-year-old kid like he's an adult. And because I do that, a lot of people won't do that. And I'm not, my mom was a single mother and she dated a lot of guys that would discipline me and do whatever. And she kind of let that roll. And I look at that and I always appreciated it. And that's why I would have dated a single mother before. But today, as I have my own kid, I look at it like, mom, it's kind of crazy, bro, that she would just let these dudes come around like that. But I mean, it didn't, I'm fine. It turned out just fine, but it just seems like such an iffy situation, and it's tricky as well. It's tricky. And because of the sensitivity that I have with my own kid, I just wouldn't want to put myself in that same situation with somebody else's kid.
I can respect that for sure. And those of you tuning in the chat, if you guys want to share your experiences, have you ever dated a single parent? Would you definitely let us know your thoughts in the chat? But coming over to my man CEO, what's your perspective? Have you or would you ever date a single mother?
To the first question, I have. The second question, would I? I would. It is a very tricky dynamic when it comes to dating a single mom because there's certain questions that you just have to ask on the surface. Like, what is your relationship with the child's father? Well, what is the child's father relationship with the children? And then you have to get to know the parenting style of present parent. And then if it's multiple children, you have to get to know each child, knowing that they're their own individual person, and that's a lot to take on because you have to give a certain amount of attention to the children, so you're not having them feel like you prefer one over the other, but then you also still have to give the mother the attention that she wants, and then still balance that whole united front. So it's a lot of stuff to take on all at one time. And like Jamal said, some people are cool with it, some people aren't cool with it. I grew up in a single parent home, so I've seen my friends who had their dad in the home, and he was really active. And then I've seen some of my friends who were like they felt like they were in a single parent home because both parents were there, but the dad wasn't active. And so I know what it's like not to have that other part. And so there's a huge part of me in my heart that doesn't want to allow a child to go through that particular situation and have all of those mixed emotions and nobody to talk to. So for me, because I look at the bigger picture of being able to help a child and prevent them from going through the same stuff that I went through, I wouldn't bat an eyelash at it.
I respect that. What's your take, Black Belt?
Sorry, I was just making some quick notes.
Nah, you good?
I'm sorry. Can you pull it up again real fast?
Yes. So the question is, have you or would you date a single mother? Why or why not?
Have I? No, I have not dated a single mother. And would I? They say never, but I'm probably as close to never as possible. And the reasoning for me is actually, one of the reasons is exactly what Sorrel Bay said actually about the priority, to where essentially coming into the situation, I'm already priority. At best, I'm priority 3. Because there's no way I'm a bigger priority than your child, or at least I shouldn't be a bigger priority than your child. I presume you're the next priority because, you're the child's mother. And then maybe, hopefully, I'm 3 if there's not other kids, or maybe that person's father is the priority. So for myself, I'm not going to walk into a situation where I'm putting someone else as my first priority, but I'm like, I'll never even be second priority. So that's one thing. And then it can be other things, such as, at the end of the day, again, for me, there's only going to be a certain select circumstances to where I'm not going to view someone being a single mom as like a detriment. And that's just being straightforward and blunt. There's only going to be a few select circumstances, because yes, I agree, there are plenty of situations of how women end up being single moms, which people don't like to mention. That also means there must be a single dad out there, but that's beyond the point. There's plenty of ways that people end up single moms, but there, in my view, again, just me, there's a select group of ways how that happens, to where I'm not going to see it as, oh, you got here through just being reckless and immature. And that doesn't mean, again, I'm not going to go on some YouTube channel and make 3-hour videos every week about this, but I'm just not going to get involved in this on the dating aspect. And just the last thing is, at the end of the day, I know people might discredit everything I'm about to say because I don't want kids to begin with. But also, I just don't see any benefit this gets from me in getting involved in this, because one, I already help kids in real life, like in my personal life, through mentorship and doing martial arts and stuff. So I don't need more kids per se. And then other than that, anything, as much as I would be expected from her and myself to be committed to that kid, if I'm going to be involved in her, in my brain, I don't see how I'm benefiting from that, because that's not my legacy. I mean, yeah, I am maybe a mentor or a father figure, but I don't see that as my legacy. And the way that at least my life is set up, and the things I would want to do for my woman, and if I did have kids, what I want to do for them, that's not something I'd be willing to do for someone else's kids.
Well, Black Belt, we always appreciate your candor, and we got some comments that came in as well. Definitely want to share those. So Tiffany was saying, I was very protective and made an intentional decision not to date until her child was at least 18 years old. That isn't the norm, but that worked out for her. She didn't want her child to be exposed. And then we had a comment that came in from Bourbon that says, and sometimes it's the children that he may not want to deal with. Children can be very possessive over their mother and can cause issues purposely to keep them to themselves. So that was a really good comment as well. Let's see. I think we had one more. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Can we? Okay. So quick question for Black Belt. As quickly as you can before we go to the ladies. F Doctor wants to know, can you unpack a little bit why you decided not to have kids, if you're comfortable sharing?
Oh yeah, my bad. I was actually just responding to her that I don't have a problem answering it. I decided to not have kids for primarily 2 reasons. One is because, I mean, frankly, I'm a guy. I don't have to make the decision now. I can wait until I'm 45, 50 to have kids. And that's really one. I have time on my side. But 2, and this doesn't mean other people don't. I'm just solely speaking from Black Belt, or for Black Belt. I take kids to such a life or death situation seriously that I need to be at a certain quality of life that for them to step into on the day they're born. And I know if I were to even have kids right now, I'm not at that position. I want my kids already walking into, a certain level of inherited assets, already a certain level of stability, already a certain level of ABC 1, 2, 3. So that's another reason why but at the end of the day, also, I've never had this fatherly desire.
All right. Thank you again for answering the question. As always, F Doctor, you have great questions. We appreciate you sharing them. Now, we want to hear from the ladies. So, Sorrel, what has been your experience? You know, kind of flipping the script a little bit. Have you ever or would you ever date a single father?
I have, but I think it's different for us in a sense that usually the men don't have full custody of the child. So I have in one specific situation, and it was more of like of getting to know each other. So it wasn't that deep. I met his child, but he was very young. And it wasn't a long-term situation. So I didn't really get involved. But it's very, I think because they don't have them full time, a lot of times you can still date, you can still see each other, you go out to the restaurant, the child is with the mother. Typically when they have their child, it's going to be their weekend. So ideally they would spend time with their child before introducing someone else to the child. So I would, of course, I would. But again, I would go into it very carefully because then it is myself, my two children, this man, and however many children he may have, and all of us coming together as a group. So, and I mean, my children are older now. So I kind of, how can I say this? I didn't really impose like a stepfather to them. It just didn't work out like that. So it was more me going out and doing my own thing. And they may have seen people I was dating, but they weren't introduced as this is a stepdad or this is someone I'm even dating. So now they're older would be different, but I don't know. I would be open to it myself because people are people. I love children, but then you still have to check for the dynamic of the group.
Yeah, and that's extremely important, right? You know, when you start thinking about blended families and things of that nature. So that's a really great point. And I appreciate you for sharing your experience, Sorrel. Tatianah, coming down to you. Have you or would you ever date a single father?
In my 20s, I was definitely against it. I wasn't looking for that. I was like, I want to start my own family. I don't want to be in a rush to, get into a relationship or marry someone who had kids, even though someone who I was in love with had a child. I was becoming more open to seeing a future with that person and making it work, even though they had a young child. Another time I just freaked out when I found out that he had not one, but two kids. That was a different person, but I was just like, yeah, that was like, I just had to cut that off. Now that I'm in my 30s and more mature, like I just have a more open understanding to it. Like it's more common than we think. Like I think Jamal said that, like a lot of people are parents now. So it's something that I thought about and I'm open to it. Yeah. It depends on a couple of things though. For me, I want to make sure that the child is a certain age. Like if they're fresh out the womb, baby, that's not going to work for me. Like babies under 2, because we don't know how stable the relationship is with the child's mother. So I kind of factor that in. I think about that stuff, honestly. But and also think about the gender of the child too. Because if it's a son, if they're raising a son on their own, then I see them like taking on the father figure role, and it's not that much of a burden on me as a female figure in their life versus it being a daughter and maybe the mother is not alive or something like that. I would have to take on more of a role right away. So I kind of factor that in. I don't know if that's something that guys think about when they step up into the dating or relationship role when it comes to dating single mothers too.
That's good. Yes, Jamal.
Yep, that's exactly kind of what I was saying earlier about like trying to be around and raising somebody else's kid, bro. It's just it's an old joke, but uh, from Bill Burr that was like, you can't even be around kids anymore. You can't even smile at them or laugh at them without looking like a pervert. And that's a huge thing, especially with girls, like with little girls and things of that nature. And it's terrifying. And I've spent my entire life trying to avoid jail. I'd be darned if I go for some kid saying something that because they didn't like me. So that's a big deal when it comes to raising somebody else's kid. That's why I'm so protective of mine and don't want them around anybody, because you never really know other people's intentions.
That's so true. So true, man. So we had a few comments that came in. First, Tiffany was sharing her experience. She says that she dated a single father, but wasn't willing to deal with the drama from the mother of his child. So yeah, like you guys have mentioned, that drama aspect is a piece of the puzzle. And then I want to give a shout out to my man Steven. It's been a minute, man. Glad to have you coming back and joining us. He has some really good questions, and I would love for us to talk about this for a minute. So his question was, how much of the panel are a product of single parent homes? And is that something that we factor into dating? So what I want to do is kind of start with the question of, what impact does growing up in a single parent home have on somebody when they're dating? I just want to get everybody's thoughts on that. And then in the midst of answering that question, if you can share whether or not you grew up in a single parent home, that would be helpful as well. So let's actually start with you, Daniela. What's your perspective on this question right here?
Oh, that's hard to gauge in the sense that majority of my current buyers were learnt here in New Zealand. So I was born and raised in Tonga. So my mum and dad, or adopted mum and dad, were together. Uh, the earliest example of what a healthy relationship was to me, up until I was 6 when mum passed away. So dad was predominantly at home trying to carry the responsibility of both mum and dad. And did it so well to the point where I think majority of the qualities that I carry into my own children have sort of transpire from his actions. So in terms of single parent and how that sort of skewed or directed or influenced my way of looking at relationship, I don't think I'm sort of far enough in order to make a judgment on that. I'm sure it's probably influenced the way I look at dating and relationship in general, but it wasn't until I sort of got here to New Zealand that I got a wider view on, damn, single parent household create XYZ in terms of negative stats and all of these things. I never saw it in that way, and I guess that's probably a credit to my father, who, even without mum, being around, he never made an effort to date, but he done it so a great job in terms of his role as a single parent, that to an extent never felt like that other part was missing.
No, that's good. That's good. And coming to you, Sorrel, what impact do you feel someone growing up in a single parent home has on dating? And let us know if you feel comfortable sharing whether or not you grew up in one.
I did not. My parents they've been together for close to 50 years. But I think I'm what I've seen or what I've observed, what I've heard, people sharing. I guess in the most extreme cases, right? Because I think some cases are fine and people didn't seem to have any issues. But for the people who did, I think it's the standard mommy daddy issues that we hear about. If they grew up in an environment where, let's say, either the mother, or, well, more often the mother, because usually the children are stay with the mother. So if she's making constantly bad comments about their father, then obviously your father is like your first love, right? As a child, as a daughter, especially, is your first example of like a male role model. So if he's always being bashed and you're always being told that he's not responsible, if the father is actually also not responsible, coming in to check in once in a blue moon, he's not really being a good father figure to you, then obviously I think that may have an impact and may cause some trust issues if the child growing up becoming an adult hasn't had a chance to work through those issues. So same thing, like for both children. I think there can be mommy issues, daddy issues. Some mothers are very angry being alone, carrying the burden of being a single mother, and then they'll have a different impact, I think, on the woman, like the girl, or if they have a boy, the impact will be different, but they'll be just as severe. So
That's a great point. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And coming up to you, Jamal, what's your take and your response to this question? What impact do you feel like somebody growing up in a single parent home will have on them when they're dating? And
Um,
also whether or not you grew up in a single parent home or not.
yeah. So it was kind of half and half. My mom was single. Well, yeah, she was single and dating up until I was like 9. And then she got married to my stepdad for. They got divorced when I was 19. But my mom being single for those first 9 years or so, it really felt like it was just me and her against the world. So, you know, uh, just a lot of stuff that we went through. It was just me and her. It was just me and my mom, and I was I was raised around a lot of black women. So um, I think that affected my view on relationships and women in general, and how I feel like how it affects you when you grow up in a single parent home, or it doesn't matter. You're like a stepfather situation as well, because you have to have somebody that's cool enough to come into that situation and try to be a parent, try to be a father figure when you don't have one. Um, how that affects you is you watch everything. So how I felt my mom was treated as a single lady, I didn't like it, and I didn't want it to be like that. And then also how I saw her as married, I didn't like it and didn't want to be like that. So it is as much as, and I respect my stepfather, well, my ex stepfather, whatever you call him. I respect them. I still talk to him, and my mom, my sister, don't talk to him no more. He was cool with me. We always had a good relationship. I just didn't think my mom and his relationship was the greatest. So I felt like I could watch that and see that and kind of take away bits and pieces of that relationship and um, try to do better than that. But I think a lot of us do that, overcompensate for the lack that you had growing up. So, not being a father or not having a father makes you want to be a better one. And not having, or your mother not having a husband or being married to your father makes you want to try to keep that intact. So, um, I just think that our environment and our circumstances always going to influence our behavior going forward. And if you had a great role model like Sorrel had 50 years of marriage, that's a beautiful thing, and you want to try to emulate that at some point.
That's real. Yeah, I appreciate you for sharing that, man. Coming over to you, CEO. What's your take? You had mentioned earlier that you grew up in a single parent household. How do you think that that's impacted you when it comes to dating? Oh, we can't hear you. Can you guys hear him? Is your mic connected? All right, try again. You still muted. All right. See if try logging out and logging back in, and then we'll come back to you. So, Black Belt, what's been your perspective? Did you grow up in a single parent household, and what impact do you feel like that's had on dating?
I was I'll answer the second question first since it's quicker. Yes and no. My parents, they separated. I don't know how old you would be, but whenever you're going into 7th grade, that's when my parents separated. So I guess it's like half and half, sort of. But I would say, I guess I was in a single parent household for one could argue psychologically, one of the more impressionable, formulating years of one's life. But anywho, I would say is how does that, I think, impact relationships today? I would say, it matters a whole lot. It matters a whole lot. I would say for myself, I don't say I don't date women who didn't have fathers in their life. I don't go that far. But if she tells me she didn't have a father in her life, I dig very deeply into like what her what her perception is of men. Not and things of that nature. What is her what type of relationship does she have with men then? Or is her relationship, or is her perception and relationships with men all kind of vicarious through what her mom, grandmas, and aunties have said, and even uncles maybe. And the reason why that is so important to me is because I'm aware of a lot of personal situations, but I can even refer to a celebrity one, Kanye West, where he's even mentioned where in his documentary on Netflix, where he always had this tension towards his dad, but he found out his mom told his dad basically, "I'm taking you to Chicago, and you better not ever come see him, or else X, Y, and Z is going to happen." And it's just and I think there's so many things like that occur that we don't discuss. It's just, oh, the black man's just a deadbeat in certain things. I mean, just a deadbeat, and that's just the end of it. So I have to really dig deep when I'm dealing with a woman who doesn't have or at least came from a single parent, if there's not a father in the household. But also on the other end, I got to dig deep really too, because I got to know, am I dealing with a daddy's girl? Because I've ran into a lot of situations where a woman will say, "Oh, well, my daddy do this, or my dad did this for me." Well, I'm not your daddy. I don't, I met you 10 minutes ago. I'm not about to tell you, I'm not about to give you the world because I met you 10 minutes ago and I thought you were attractive. And so that's just one thing as well, to where I do think, the single parent household, you do it. I factor it into dating, but that's not the end all be all. I have to do a lot more digging, because I think it's unfair to just write them off at that point, or write anyone off just at that point.
Nah, that's fair. Definitely fair. And CEO, let's see if we can hear from you now.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Okay. So to answer the question, kind of like piggyback off of what Jamal said, when I saw my mom be dating, I always paid attention to how she was being treated. But then I also paid attention to how the person that she was dating was treating me. And I'll give two perfect examples. There was one particular guy that she was dating where we had very little interaction. Like whenever he would come and visit, he would buy, like at the time I was really big on playing Nintendo games. So whatever the latest game was, that's what he would bring. He'd be like, "Hey, I brought you the latest game, X, Y, and Z." And I'm like, I'm not going to turn down the game. I'll say thank you for the game, but that's pretty much where our conversation started and stopped. Then she dated somebody else, to where when he started coming around, one particular day, I was putting up a basketball goal by myself. And he walked in, he spoke to my mom and came back out and spoke to me. And because I was so used to the way the previous guy treated me, my response to him was, you don't have to come out here and act like you want to help me. You don't have to come out here and act like you want to get to know me or things of that nature. And he was like, "No, I actually want to be out here helping you." And that, through conversations, my perception of him ended up changing, and we ended up, developing a relationship, even though they didn't stay together. Now, what was a big impact on me was growing up without my father in my life. That made me fixated on, if I was ever in a position to be a parent, like have my own child or be a parent to somebody else's kids, I was going to do everything I can not to be anything like him. And so for me, it left a imprint as a child way before I ever got to being an adult.
I hear that. Yo, thank you for sharing those experiences, man. You always have really great examples to kind of tie home your point, and I appreciate that, CEO. And coming down to you, Tatiana, what's your perspective when it comes to people growing up in a single parent home and the impact it has on them when they're dating?
Yeah, so I went from a two-parent household to a divorce situation, witnessing my parents fight and then let us know that their relationship was ending, to a single-parent household being shared between my parents. And there was a lot that went into that dynamic, because divorce is an ugly thing that kids have to experience, especially when you're old enough to kind of figure out what's going on. I was around maybe 12 or 13 when they finally got divorced, but seeing all the stuff that happened between them, that definitely like shook some things within me about relationships and marriage. But on a more positive side to it, once my dad started dating, even though he brought us around some of the women that he was dating, he eventually brought us around who he's married to now, my second mom. And she had a daughter as well. So it kind of helped that she had a kid, because we could all bond together. And so that kind of normalized for me the aspect of a blended family. And so I became, I guess, more accepting of that being a reality for my life. And Like, oh, if I, like I said earlier, I wasn't into dating someone who had a kid in my 20s because I had my idea of what, you know, wanting to be married and having a family would be like. But then as I got older, I was like, you know what? Being in a blended family is more of a common thing and it's okay. You just have to make sure that, you know, there's boundaries in place, that everybody's respectful of each other. But if I didn't have that example, my perspective would probably be different. So I'm more open to it.
Nah, thank you so much for opening up and, you know, being transparent about your experience. It is definitely eye-opening from everybody here on the panel, just sharing your perspectives. And I like how different everybody's situation was and some of the commonalities between them, despite the households that we grew up in. I thought that was really great. So now let's kind of jump into one of the main pieces of our conversation. Let's turn our attention to some of the cons of dating a single mom. And this time I'm gonna do it in reverse. I'm gonna start with the ladies to kind of get their thoughts on this and then go to the gentleman and close things out. So, Sorrel, coming to you, what do you think or have you heard people express as some of the cons of dating a single mom?
Yeah, and I think we sort of mentioned a few earlier. I sort of heard a few things, like for instance, if the children are not ready for it, that can be very difficult. Like someone had mentioned that earlier. Like the children are they might be still angry at the situation. It's something that it's difficult to deal with, first of all. So I mean, they might not be receptive. So they may cause a lot of, you know, either temper tantrums or whatever. They may not cooperate. So that can be difficult for the new for the new person coming in, especially if they're not used to children, if they weren't expecting that. You know, some men, I think they come into the relationship and they think they're going to be welcome with open arms, and then you have children who sort of scream out the "you are not my father," you know, get out of my face, sort of deal. That can be an issue. Dealing with angry or an unfinished, unresolved relationships between the mother and the father. Like if it's not a mature, if they're not putting the children first and they're still bickering and arguing back and forth, that can be very, very difficult, I think, for the new person coming in. Sometimes they may also feel like, is your relationship really over? Like, what am I stepping into? Things of that nature. The attitude, of course, I think some women are not, uh, we're still angry. Like if you're carrying that anger from the previous relationship and this new guy coming in, like with you, it's hard to start if you haven't dealt with the issues, right? It's hard for you to welcome him and just be cool about things. A lot of, you know, there's going to be a lot of anger, judgment, things of that nature.
Okay, yo, that's a good way to start things off. Coming up to one of our fellas, Jamal, what would you say are some of the cons of dating a single mom?
Uh, I think we all seen baby kids here. Bro, we not gonna act like the kid's not bad sometimes, man. Like just a group of bad kids is a headache, yo. Are you kidding me? That is a major con to have a group of bad kids, scheming kids, or even the Bernie Mac joke when he was like, they came downstairs and like, we want some milk and cookies. Bro, that's really crazy to deal with. And we're not gonna act like that's not a thing. But on a more serious note, I'm being silly. That's true though. That is funny. But the again, back to the responsibility of somebody else's kid. Like I've been this way for a very long time, but I don't like anybody's kid. I treat kids like a landmine or like a plague because you really, really like people don't play about their kids. They just don't play about their kids. And now that I have one, like I'm probably the worst of them. So I can understand like that walking into that situation is a very, very difficult situation. And some people just not up for that. And another con of that is the this is a very interesting point, but we can't avoid or ignore the fact that in a typical relationship, you have, and this kind of goes to Black Belt, what he was saying earlier about priorities, you cannot understate the value, especially if the kid is young, understate the value of like quality time and trying to get to know this individual. It's extremely hard to grow a serious connection with a person when they have kids because the flexibility isn't the same. We got to work around the kid's schedule. So I can't necessarily come over and we can watch or go out tonight and we can watch a movie. We have to figure out when the kid is going to the dad or babysitter or whatever the mom can make flexible. I got, hopefully she can't just pawn her kids off at any given moment. But the ability to build a connection with somebody at the beginning of a relationship is so vital and critical to the health and the maintaining the longevity of that relationship. And it's extremely difficult to do that with a child, like they were saying earlier, like a 2-year-old kid or younger. It's really hard to do that. Now, if the kid is 7, 8, 9, 10, be gone, go somewhere, and you can build a relationship with the mom that way. But it's extremely difficult to do that with a young child that needs to be tended to at all times.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Jamal. Coming down to you, Tatiana. What's your take? What are some of the cons that you've heard of people dating single moms?
I was thinking about the sense of competition or territorial feelings that they may have with the father of the child or the children. And maybe the guy may not feel like they're enough of a quote unquote real parent to the children if if things get serious and they marry.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So coming up to my man, Daniela, what would you say are some of the cons of dating a single mom?
Yeah, I think that the panel has sort of covered predominantly the points I was going to speak on anyway. But also there seems to be, well, majority of the single mothers that I've come across, some I've dated, there seems to be a desperation in order to make a decision on a man, in the sense that usually in my own experience and what I hear is that when you set boundaries, there's often that pressure of fast forwarding when that boundary can be broken down. For example, one of my rule when I was dating, especially if it was a single mother, was I do not want to meet your kids. We are dating, and dating and relationships are completely two different things for me. I will date you for months in order for me to learn who you are as a human being, where your priorities are, and I don't even want you to prioritize me. We still live, two separate lives. I want to see how you can balance our dynamic while you still look after your priority. But I do not want to meet your kids. That's something that I don't want to put on you, and neither do I want your kids to put on me. Then from there on, we'll move into the relationship. And relationship is we're getting ready to get married. We're looking at families, the whole 9 yards. And I've had my own boundaries broken right before anything was decided on. And that was just, to me, that's my boundary. You've sort of pushed upon me, your child, lovely kid, by the way, but this is not going to work out because it showed me that if you're not going to respect my boundary, I'm not going to respect yours. And it's just two-way street. So I think that's just an add-on, but also at the same time, one of the things that I speak on to men in construction is that we need to differentiate relationship and dating. Date a person regardless whether they are without children or have children, to get to know the person. And not only that, especially if they are mothers themselves, get to know you as a human being. What are you going to bring to the table? What's your dynamic in terms of how you're going to be with kids, especially your own kids? So I guess I'm sort of tangenting off in terms of pros and cons, cons majorly, but yeah, there's added pressure, especially as a woman with a child, and you're looking for someone to come in and sort of help ease that burden. There is that additional pressure that I've seen over my own experience.
Nah, and I really appreciate you for sharing that. Thank you, man. And coming over to Black Belt, what's your take when it comes to the cons of dating a single mom?
I would say we've already touched a lot of different cons, and I guess I'll just go a little step further and talk about maybe a specific group of single moms where I don't at all think that's the majority, but it's not a negligible amount. To where essentially where you're dealing with damn near a combat veteran, to where essentially they got, I mean, take this however, they got ran through the ringer and they're like, I'm not taking another L again. So I'm making sure I'm gonna get him before he gets me. And that can come out in the multiple different ways or facets of either trying to push up timelines to where, oh, we need to be moving at this certain pace, or I didn't require this from the last guy, but I'm gonna make sure that you're doing this because again, I'm not taking no L's. I already got the first time. And again, I want to be clear. I'm not even saying that's the majority, but that's a non-negligible amount as well, I would say. And also, if you are a guy who does want kids, I would say you have to you have to make this decision, and this is for every man who wants kids and gets in that, they have to make this decision. Whoever the father is of those kids are from the single mom, do you want your kids to share that genealogy? And I think for a lot of men that, I mean, it may be a subconscious thing, they may not articulate it, but I think that does bother some men, a lot of men, if they are going to deal with a single mom where, all right, I want kids. I'm feeling, single mom Maddie or whatever. However, do I want my kids to be brothers or sisters with their kid, their already existing kid, and their dad is, I don't know, we'll just say, catfish or cornbread and skullduggery or whatever. That's just something guys got to consider. Do I want my kids to be literally bloodline related to that person? But like I said, I think we discussed a lot of things, honestly. So I don't want to overkill it.
Nah, you're good, man. And that's why we're here, is to discuss as many of these different cons as we can. And you guys are putting a lot of them out there for us to talk about. And I appreciate that. So coming over to you, CEO, to kind of close out the cons, any additional ones that you would add?
Maybe the first con that I have is a single mom that wants to wave the "we are a package deal" flag. Like I'm naive and that's something that I don't already know. Um, the second one is someone who insists on me meeting their children before I'm ready to. Um, for me, that's a non-negotiable. I get it that you have, as a parent, you have to figure out when you have free time to go out on dates and things of that nature. I'm willing to wait. But what I'm not willing to do is have the first date be with me, you, and your child, like we're going to Chuck E. Cheese or Applebee's or something of that nature. And then the other con is the potential drama that can result from dealing with a single mom. Because there's some dads or baby dads that, as long as the mom isn't dating anybody, they're cool and they lay off in the cut. But then the moment they get wind of her dating somebody, then they want to come in and cause all this drama and act like they're dad of the year. So to me, those are some of the cons.
Nah, great list, great list. So what I want to do, I want to give the ladies the opportunity. Any questions that you like to ask the gentlemen about any of the cons that have been discussed before we move on to the pros? Sorrel, Tatiana, any questions for the fellas? None? Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, let's move on to the pros. So let me go ahead and throw this up on screen. Okay, cool. So Tatiana, what would you say are some of the pros of men dating a single mom?
Okay. I would say some of the pros would be that you get to see what that person is like with kids. Because sometimes, people change when they have children. The different seasons bring out different things out of people. So you want to see how responsible that person is with children, with another life that they have to be responsible for. So if you're getting to know someone who has a kid, you want to hear like how they're talking to their kid, how they're raising them, what their schedule is like, what's the routine like. Pay attention to all those things. That gives you an idea of what kind of responsibilities they have and how they treat their child, basically. and how they might treat your children that you may have together if you guys get together and make that happen. Also, if you're physically unable to have children for whatever reason, medically unable, you just can't carry to full term if you're a woman or whatever have you, you have a family that you can help raise, especially if they are younger children. You can be a supportive role model for the children. I always think about the Russell Wilson Sierra situation. Sierra had a child before she got married to Russell. He stepped up as a father figure to her son. And even though there's so much quote unquote controversy on social media for that, I think it's commendable to be able to be a role model for someone who's not someone you created. I commend that regardless of what the situation is. And then also from a generational standpoint, you can help be part of breaking a generational curse or a generational cycle that could be negative in that family's bloodline or your family bloodline. These cycles of single parent homes or broken families, et cetera, you can be part of that if you decide to be with someone who has a child. Doesn't always work out, but that's a possibility. Someone put it up there as a pro.
Nah, that's real. That's real. So before we go to our next panelist, there was a comment that came in from Bourbon says, also, not sure if it was mentioned. Let's be real. Some women want a man just to be that extra financial assistance. It could be hard for good men to see through that. So yeah, just wanted to point that out. And come up to Black Belt. What would you say are some of the pros of dating a single mom? I think you're muted, Black Belt. All right. I'll give you a second. We'll come back to you. Jamal, what would you say are some of the pros of dating a single mom?
This is like the opposite of what Tatiana said. And again, I'm just gonna make sure we all be real here. Um, but she was saying how Russell Wilson well, essentially is adopted future kids, which is fantastic. They have a great role model, and that's great for the kids. But somebody could have been LeBron's stepdad, and that could have been pretty awesome. Like you have an option or the opportunity to step into some kid's life. Maybe this is off Black Belt's point. Maybe your genes are trash, and somebody else made a much better kid, and you could be there to mentor them and help them get somewhere further in life than you are. Something that you might not be capable of doing. That's pretty cool. But also on a serious note, the men and women, because we don't speak about the men much here, but the women and men that actually take care of their kids are probably some of the greatest people on earth. Like it's a huge responsibility to be a single parent and to have to take on the responsibility of taking care of a kid all by yourself. Bourbon just said maybe you want some assistance. And if you ain't never looked for that assistance and you've been handling on your own, that's a different type of person. And you have to respect that individual tremendously. And I would imagine that they have a lot of value to bring to a relationship. Like I said, my mom was a single parent, and I respect all single mothers, especially Black single mothers, because it's hard. It's hard raising a kid. Like a lot of times, people talk about raising a kid because of the financial aspect of raising a kid, but also, again, kids are bad. I was a bad kid, so you have an added pressure of a single Black mother trying to keep alive a Black kid who don't understand the ramification for his misdeeds. You know what I'm saying? So it is extremely admirable for women and men who take care of their children and a kind of dating that individual. The relationship has to benefit or be much better because of the person that they are. Like not everybody is that way. And not everybody can handle their business in that way.
Yo, I appreciate you for sharing that. So we had a comment that came in before I come back to Black Belt. Brittany was saying, this has been rough, but good to hear. Pray for the contentment of singleness and raise your children. And then Brittany was throwing a little shade your way, Black Belt, said like he couldn't think of any pros. And, that's the reason why he didn't want to come off mute. But we know that's not the case. Black Belt, go ahead and let us know what some of your pros are, bro.
I mean, that was actually funny. That was actually hilarious. Kind of, I mean, I would say it's the same thing that Tatianah said, to where maybe if you either maybe for whatever reason you actually cannot have kids, or there are some people who, in the inverse of what I said that Jamal mentioned, maybe like the baby father's genes are trash. Maybe you don't like the genes you come from, but you got no problem wanting to be a father. I mean, I think that's a number of men out here who don't necessarily like where their stock is from, but that doesn't mean they're unwilling to be a father to someone. I mean, I guess the pros are, well, that's pretty much what I'm thinking of the pros, but the pros are also going to be very individualistic on the guy and what he's looking for. I hate to make it seem like there just aren't any pros, but it really depends on what that guy's looking for and where he's at in life. So I would say the pros are going to be different, and probably much more pros if it's like I'm talking about a 40, 45-year-old man versus a guy who's like 21 dealing with a single mom. Because, going back to what I think Bourbon mentioned, most people in period, this is the thing I do with single moms. Most people need a second income, especially if we talking about having kids. At 21, regardless of what race we talking about, most guys ain't bringing much to like be able to help raise a kid. But if we talking about someone who's like 40, 45 and established, that makes a difference. And they're probably more sure about what they actually envision their future looking like.
All right, that's good. So he did have something to say, Brittany.
That was funny. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one. When I saw it, it made me laugh. But now, coming down to you, Sorrel, what would you say are some of the pros?
I agree with what Tatianah, Jamal, everything that's been said so far. And I would say, the experience, being able to run a household alone, even. So I think that's something to take into consideration. Also, when having the opportunity, and that's been said also, stepping up to a challenge, because it reminds me of something one of my friends, who's really just a friend, he's married, everything, and the way he was looking at it, I thought his vision was very interesting. He said, well, and like, he's one of my friends, we grew up together, and he was like, as a Black man who knows you, who's close to you, your children are also by default my responsibility. And I thought that was very like geared towards the greater good. So I think the people who sort of have that mission, because not everybody does, I really, that's why I respect. I don't think any perspective is wrong. I just think you have to know and follow your perspective. So his perspective is more geared towards being a mentor. He is naturally that kind of person. So for these people who see themselves as serving that purpose, I think that's a great opportunity for them to accomplish whatever they came here to accomplish.
Most definitely. Yeah. Yes. So really quickly, huge shout out to my girl Ebony for joining us tonight. We appreciate you for tuning in with us. And then Bourbon had this comment. She says, the maturity and love level of great mothers is a beauty without compassion, especially if she has her own and is successful and she's done it alone. So just wanted to share that comment and come over to you, CEO. What would you say are some of the pros of dating a single mom?
It's kind of hard because everybody touched on them. I guess one of the other pros would be like if the guy wanted to eventually have kids, he can kind of see exactly how this particular woman handles the children that she already has, and if that's something where he's like, okay, I want to bring my own child into this particular situation as far as the way that she talks to them and raises them and things of that nature, and make a educated, informed decision based off of what he's seen consistently. I think another pro is being able to have an impact on children that didn't necessarily ask to be here, and they didn't ask to be in the situation that they're in, and possibly change whatever trajectory that their life was going on before you came into it. So I think those are also some of the pros of dating a single mother.
All right. And Daniela, what would you say are some of the pros of dating a single mom?
Yeah, it's I think, yeah, again, majority of the panels of, well, all the panels have touched on some very great points, and I agree to most of them. But I really sort of resonate with what Black Belt was saying in terms of it's really up to the individual in terms of what they deem, a pro or con in terms of dating single mothers. In my own sort of personal opinion, there really isn't much in terms of in comparison to just someone without children. Yes, you can get a gauge and a physical metric of what they're like as parent, but really it's all human beings come in different sort of value systems that even a mother, even a woman who has no children can provide the same level of value. So in terms of pros and cons, I can't really comment in the sense that I think my own perspective allowed me to look at it as it depends on what you both compromise with. So you can either find that either way.
That's fair. You're right. And I think that was a great point that Black Belt made with regards to the individual and where they are in their life, what they're able to manage. That's extremely important. So great answers across the board from the panel. Before we go to our next question, just wanted to share some of the comments that came through. So Bourbon says, you have a warrior and a woman. It's not easy. I have a big village and sometimes I struggle. LOL. I don't know how my mother did it. And then we had a comment that came in from F Doctor says, whether you are a single parent or not, I believe it requires much grace, wisdom, and patience. So let's go into the next question. So I want to talk more specifically about some of the things that men desire or require when they're dating a single mom. Let's kick it off with you, Black Belt. What would you say are some of the things that men desire or require?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I can answer this. I don't date single moms. I'm just being straight. I don't know if I really can answer this.
So even if you were to hypothetically find yourself in that situation, there wouldn't be any criteria or something that you would want or require out of that woman.
I would say, okay. The only way I could really see myself getting involved with it is I'd probably have to be dealing with pretty much a widow, most likely, or a divorcee. But if it's a divorce situation, I don't believe in the whole irreconcilable differences. I need, essentially, if someone isn't chasing someone around with a butcher knife, or someone isn't performing, Ted Bundy type manipulation, that's probably the only way I'm gonna really go for it. So that's pretty much the start of it, essentially. But I'm here. I don't know if I really can say much. I'm just gonna be honest.
Yo, that's fair, man. No, I ain't gonna put no pressure on nobody. I'm not gonna apply no pressure. I promise you. So, CEO, what's your take? What would you either personally or some men that what are some things that they require or desire if they're dating a single mom?
Independence, stability. They look at the relationship that they have with their children. I have a friend of mine to where when he dealt with a woman who had kids and they gravitated towards him and they confided in him more than they did her. And, that was an adjustment for him because, he was like, wait a minute, what's really going on to where y'all want to sit here and open up to me about any and everything. And there was stuff that, they told him that they didn't even tell their own mom. So I guess, like I said, the relationship that she has with her children um, is key. And also maybe the relationship that she has with her parents and what parenting style she has. What does she believe in? Like if she came from a home where spanking or whippings was real big, but then now she doesn't necessarily agree with it, but I do, then we have to come to some sort of common denominator or an agreement or compromise or something of that nature. So I think it's a lot of stuff that goes into it. It's not it's not solely on how you treat your kids. But like I said, it's just you as an individual, even if the kids weren't a part of the equation. Like, how do you take care of yourself, your bills, do you keep yourself up, things of that nature. So for me and for people that I know, those are some of the things that they require and that they look for.
Okay. And Daniela, what would you say are some of the desires or requirements that men have if they're dating a single mom?
Yeah, I won't be able to speak for all men, but in terms of my own experience, one of the major thing, and I think it's the only thing that I was looking for, especially if I was dating a single mother, was just accountability. And that was the only thing that I sort of look for in terms of what I required, in the sense of no matter what's happened in your previous relationship, are you accountable that your own happiness is now based on your decision from this moment forward? Whether there was pain involved, whether there was a lot of trauma, I need to know you've decided that it's your decision from whatever our interaction is for you to be happy. It's your choice essentially. Because if I come into, say, we're dating and I don't see any of that, I know maybe further down the line, the same pain that you've gone through or the same experience you've gone through in the past may be put on me. And that's pressure of me trying to sort of work in a way that I may be walking on eggshells. And I don't believe relationships need to go into that sort of direction. So accountability is the only thing that I require, and anything else in that sense can be built. But it's a great foundation, and that's the only thing I look for.
Yeah, and I appreciate you breaking it down and specifying the type of accountability, because I think that most of us can account for having heard people talk about the importance of accountability, but very rarely do they specify the type of accountability that they're looking for in women. So I really appreciate you for taking the time to expound on that. And coming over to you, Jamal, what would you say are some of the things either personally or men that you know desire or require when dating a single mom?
I think it really boils down to two words, which is um, respect and responsibility. You you have to be. I'm coming here to help. I'm not coming here to do. So I'm not coming here to take care of you and your kids. You can't be a single mother who not taking care of their kids, not paying your bills. You're struggling, and you're looking for a man to come and do it for you. That's not. It's just not gonna happen, man. And that's an unfair situation to put anybody in. So you gotta have respect for that individual. You gotta have respect for yourself, and then you also gotta be responsible and take care of your responsibilities. And like obviously, like everybody's been saying, in this economy in today's time, we all need two incomes, or most people need two incomes in order to take care of themselves, and especially adding in the kid in it. But you cannot by any means assume that this individual is coming here to carry the financial burden of this household. It's just going to create a lot of resentment for me trying to take care of. Because this is when you start getting the wild comments of these not my kids, they not my responsibility type of thing. And you're only gonna get that response from a good man if you are taking advantage of them financially, and you're not respecting them financially. I think that a lot of people end up getting themselves in a lot of trouble or a lot of situations when they don't have it on their own. And I don't know. I don't know what that's like today. Like I said, I don't know what the world looks like out there today, but I know when my mom was uh, dating 20 some odd years ago, she had her own. She had her own. And I feel like that's the thing today. I feel like most women are trying to be independent by themselves first before they bring anybody into a situation. So that's not necessarily an indictment on anybody. I'm just saying that those are some of the things that you would have to look at if you were looking at dating somebody else that has a kid. Is that, are they taking care of home first? Because that also is going to they're also going to say a lot about how they treat you and the home and relationship moving forward.
That's real. That's real. So let's get the ladies' perspective on the things that the men have shared, and just want to hear from the ladies. So starting with you, Sorrel, what's your take on what men are saying they desire and require when dating single moms?
Yeah, I think it's totally understandable. It makes sense. Respect is definitely, I would assume it's like a top priority, right? In any relationship, of course, but particularly in this type of relationship because then you have more people involved. So the respect is going to be different. It's going to come from different sources, but it has to be there. I think also the mother has to set the tone and make sure that the children are in line with the whole program. Because, like we said before, children may see the relationship, they may not understand, they may be attached to, well, they will be attached to their fathers. So coming into it, it's up to the mother to first, explain this, break it down to the children first. And I think also um, making sure this new person coming in has like a special place, right? Because sometimes you're entering an already existing dynamic. So are you making room for this new man to come in and fulfill his duties, whatever they may be, whatever you guys decide? But he has to have room. He can't feel like just you're coming in to either carry some of the burden, or you're just a distraction in the home. He really has to have like that special place so he can also feel and be a part of that family. And um yeah, so with that comes also the attention that he's getting from the woman, from the children. Yeah, but I agree with what's been said so far.
And you make an excellent point, and it kind of reminds me of what Jamal was talking about when it comes to a man having the perspective of not wanting to come along to do something,
Mhm.
like helping versus providing handouts, as I saw the comment that came up by F Doctor. And I just want to kind of throw a follow-up question back to you, Sorrel, is do you feel like it will depend on the individual? Like, how important is it for a man to understand, for lack of a better term, what role a woman wants? In this case, a single mom, what role does she want a man to play in her life? How important is it for a man to be able to identify that to you?
It's super important because I think different women may need different things. Like some women, it depends on where they're at, right? Because dating, some may just be dating casually because their children might be young. They might be aware of what we mentioned before, where they're like, you know what, I'm just looking for a partner for now. My children are young. I don't have that much time to dedicate to you. I'm not trying to get married. I just want to casually date. I'm looking for companionship. Um, Letting the man know that you're going to avoid wasting his time because maybe he's looking for something serious, maybe he wants to get into like an actual relationship with you, and get married. But if you're looking at it, if you're not communicating what, you know how he can come in. And at the same time, when let's say you go into a relationship and the father is very, very present in the children's lives, I think automatically the stepdad is sort of going to have to take a step back just naturally, because it the dynamic might be a bit different, because then the children are he's I think he's going to feel like, okay, certain decisions don't fall under my watch, right? When I'm here, I need to be respected, make sure everything falls through. But at the same time, I don't, full responsibility is not on me, or that they have a father figure, so to speak. I'm just sort of, so I think it's important because I've noticed and I've heard many women, like, they won't allow a stepdad to come in and, I'm not going to say discipline, because, or physically discipline, but even tell the children, listen, that's not right. They start catching feelings, taking it personal, starting an argument with the stepdad, so different people, different things, but I think it's definitely something to watch out for.
Nah, and I appreciate you for expounding on that. I just wanted to point that out for those who are watching and tuning in. Coming over to you, Tatiana, what's your take from a woman's perspective, hearing the things that the men have said about what they desire and require if they're dating a single mom?
Yeah, I think those were all mature and realistic like requirements that they would have for someone who's a single mom. I would also add in to what Sorrel was saying, having availability and that balance for the woman should be able to have a balance in their life and be emotionally available for a relationship. Maybe she's testing the waters and, getting into dating, but to what Daniela said, like there's a difference between dating and being in a relationship. Like you gotta make sure that both parties are ready for that commitment piece, because there's going to be more required when you actually do the commitment part. So I thought everybody shared good stuff today.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So our next question, I feel like one of these, this always comes up when we talk about dating, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Right. Black belt. You did have one other thing that you wanted to share.
Yeah.
By all means, I apologize, man. It slipped my mind. Thank you
No,
for bringing it up. What was the other thing that you wanted to add with regards to our question at hand?
that's all good. I actually did think of 3 specific things.
Oh, nice. Okay.
If I was going to jump into this, I did think of 3 specific things. The first thing is if I'm going to, dive headfirst into this whole situation and treat these kids as my own, I'm just gonna say as blunt as possible. The kids gotta come from a black mom and a black dad. I'm just gonna be as straightforward as possible. I don't see myself personally being all in on a kid who I can't even fully racially identify with. But that's just me. I'm not saying all guys should do that. But that's the first thing for me. The second thing would be I need everyone to be buying in to like my plan and my system. As I say, there needs to be a role for me to fulfill, but I need a whole buy-in from the mom and the kids. And then the third thing is it depends on her age of pregnancy. I'm not going to get with someone who is like a teen mom. And that's pretty much that. Those are the 3 things. We can go to the next thing. I just want to say those real fast. Oh, I think so.
CEO. Yes.
Yeah, what's up?
I got a question for the fellas, well, specifically the ones that have made it known that they don't date single mothers. So, hypothetically speaking, let's say that you all were in a situation where you were single fathers. Would that knowing how you feel about dating single mothers, would that change your viewpoint if a woman wanted to be a part of your life and your child, or would you wait until your child got to an adult age and then be open to dating again?
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Are you saying that would I still date while I had a minor child, or would I wait till they're of age?
Right. Like, what would your viewpoint be? Like, would you still be open to dating even though you have a minor child, or would you rather wait until your child was grown and out the house and then be open to dating again, knowing how you personally feel about dating single moms?
That's a great question. I'm leaning towards I'm gonna wait till they're out the house. That's what I'm leaning towards. But it does depend though. If I have sons, I'm more confident that essentially you're not, I'm heterosexual, so I'm not looking for another dad. You already got a dad. You got someone who's laying down the law. If I have a daughter, I'm pretty confident of going to be 100%. I'm waiting until she's gone. But if it's a son, I might start dipping in at 14, 15 years old. I might. But even then, I still might wait till they're completely out the house. Because I understand vice versa. I completely understand if a woman don't want to deal with a man who has kids. I get it.
That is a great question, CEO. And I do want to clarify my point from earlier as I thought about this. We've been on here for a while. I don't think that it's like absolutely unequivocally no, I would never date a single mother. But I mean, it's unlikely. But to answer your question, which was a great question, no, I keep telling y'all, I don't want nobody around my kid now. So absolutely not. Like, I just don't trust people. Just in general. I just don't trust other individuals. And I think that I don't play about kids like I've been saying this whole time. And kids are so impressionable. Kids are so impressionable. And I know we all have things that happen in our childhood, traumas and victories and all these things that stick with us to our absolute core. And I want to try to control and dictate as much of that for my child as I possibly can. like as I humanly possibly can. And it's to an extreme. Like me and my wife, but nobody's ever watched our kids. Not my grandmother, not my mother, not her grandmother, not her mother. I just not having it because I don't trust none of them, honestly. Not, and they're great people, but we just got different philosophies. If I don't want my kid to have sugar and he only drinks water, but I know my mom's gonna try to give him some McDonald's fast food, some French fries, and a cupcake, which she just did a month ago, I almost flipped. I really almost flipped. And I dropped the conversation. But you cannot, like, imagine, like, I'm telling you how I am with my mom now. Imagine if this is a girlfriend. It's just crazy to me. And it, like, when I was saying that people don't play about their kids, once you cross the line with somebody's kid, it's a wrap. It is an absolute wrap. And I don't want to put myself in that situation. I don't want to put my kid in that situation. And I don't want to put another individual in that situation. I said this before we got on the call, but my family has been gone for 2 months visiting family members, and I've heard enough stories that make me want to not let them go back ever again, or just to slap everybody, like, cause it's crazy. If we like, we don't want him to have candy. We don't want him to have sugar and all this different stuff. Why are you doing that? And that's because they're the grandparents, they're the great grandparents. They don't care what you think. They don't care how you raise your kid. This is how I raised you. And I'd say, yeah, that's the problem with me. That's my problem. So I don't want my kid to be anything like that. So nope, nobody around my kid. No, sir.
No, I appreciate you for expounding and sharing your perspective on that. And we had a comment come in from Tiffany. She says, I found that many people are not genuinely kind to children as they pretend. And that is why I didn't date until my child was 18 years old. I couldn't trust anyone either. So great point. Anybody else want to chime in on any of the things that have been said? Tatiana, you have something you want to share?
Yes, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Jamal said because I felt like I was alone in this. I'm not a parent yet, but I definitely feel like I'd be that parent. Like, I don't know if my parents are going to be alone with my kids. It just is what it is, especially when you grow up and you saw things that your parents did. And yes, you can have forgiveness, but if they're still acting in certain ways that you don't agree with, that you want to, they're opposite of what you want to instill in your own children, you have to put that into consideration and guard your children because at the end of the day, they're your kids, they're your responsibility. And so I agree with that. When unfortunately you have those situations where your own family members can cross boundaries. In an ideal world, it'd be great if we could all kumbaya and all raise the kids like one big village, but unfortunately, not everybody can be on the same page. And until then, they're gonna be with me. So I
And
understand.
and to add on to that, like we said this a few times, but because kids are so impressionable and they pick up different things, my kid looks just like me and my wife. And I don't mean physically, I mean like behaviorally. Like, but then if your kid is with all these other people all the time, they come home with these different sayings, these different words. You're like, where'd that come from? Like I can imagine it's a weird thing. Everything my kid does, I know exactly where he got it. Like I know exactly where it came from. Like my kid constantly running around the house and say stuff like, "Oh man, that's cool." And it's because I say that to him all day long. That's the only thing I could possibly think of to say to whatever thing he think is cool. Like, but your kids are such that way, but your parents and grandparents especially, they have a certain way of thinking. And that's why I think like this is off subject. That's why I think it's like the problem with the Supreme Court. There's no way there should be a lifetime position. They've been there for 40 years. The way you thought 40 years ago shouldn't be how we thinking today. But that's the exact same situation with our parents. The way they raised you 30, 40 years ago is how they think that things should be raised today. And it's not the case at all. Like you can't raise my child the same way that you raised me. The same stuff that you even did when I was a kid might be even legal, like, or it might be extremely intolerable. And parents just don't understand that. And then if you throw in a stepfather or a single parent situation, that becomes a whole nother level of complexity and issues.
Nah, thank you so much for sharing that. One comment, then we'll go to our next question. So, F Doctor says, I get it that we have to safeguard our children in today's society, but there are things that we cannot control in this world that they will experience. Pray you have trained them well and for protection. And that's real talk. So, coming to our next question, last question for the night. Dating expectations. This has to be discussed, right? The expectations that single moms have. And I want to talk more specifically about the unrealistic ones. So let's start with you, Daniela. What would you say are some of the unrealistic dating expectations that some single moms have?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, I might pick up a couple of points from everyone else, but at the moment, I can't pick from any.
No worries. I can circle back
Yeah,
to you. That cool?
yeah, sure.
Okay. Anybody want to go in first? How about you? CEO said no. Black belt, you want to go for this one?
Sure, I'll go ahead. Well, I wanted to say actually, this usually doesn't happen, but Jamal actually completely changed my opinion. I'm actually on his side. Ain't no one coming around my kids, so that was great. But to the question, I would say, I guess the top thing I can think of is the unrealistic expectation is that you're not judged by your past, or you shouldn't be judged by your past. I would say that's probably the most unrealistic one because essentially for many at least, that's essentially your report card, or that's what you prioritized in the past. If you just prioritize someone with swag, or you prioritize someone who just catered to you and made you feel good, but didn't actually care about if he was as a productive man, then why are you coming to me expecting the world now? So I would say that's probably the number one thing of just essentially men care. At least I would say the more valuable men that they actually want, they care about essentially where did you come from, just like a woman would care. Oh well, where did you come from before I met you? Were you just like focus on your life and getting yourself together, or were you out here running a human trafficking ring? What were you doing? But it matters, and I think both sides should know these things.
I agree, man. I agree. Great point. And really quickly, want to give a huge shout out to Chantal. We appreciate you. She said, "Yeah, I made it. Woo! Good night, ladies and gents. Yo, so glad you made it. Happy that you are here with us. And yeah, we still got some more show to go. So there's much for you to tune into. So I want to come down to you, Sorrel. From a woman's perspective, what would you say are some of the unrealistic dating expectations that some single moms have?
I agree with what Black Belt was just saying. To have the new guy come in and sort of clean up everything. Either the savior or the sugar daddy come in and magic wand, and he's gonna fix all the problems. He's gonna take care of everything. um I would say that, and I would also say the sort of shut up and listen kind of guy. You're coming in, I decide, because a lot of times the single parent, you're in your home, you're ruling, like you are the law, right? You determine everything. Now somebody else comes in and you sort of want them to follow along with your plan because it's your children, it's your life, it's you who've been running the whole show for the whole time. So I think some women are willing to date, but not necessarily willing to now accept this, which comes down to what I was saying. Does this new man gonna have like a special place? Is he gonna have room to fulfill his role? Yeah, I think those are the two top things that come to mind right now.
No, those are good. Those are good. So, Jamal, what would you say are some of the unrealistic dating expectations that some single moms have? Hey, you gotta take a sip.
um, I think that I'm gonna do both sides of the coin. First, let's start with the guy coming into a relationship with a single mother, which I touched on earlier. And I touched on both of these actually, is a guy coming in and assuming that you could be first priority, or that she has an unlimited amount of time and opportunity to spend with you or be around you or to tend to you and spend with you. That's a very unrealistic expectation to have. And then for a female, is back to my earlier point of assuming, and like Sorrell just said, assuming that this individual is going to come in here and take over the burden financially, or he's going to immediately come in and be the father figure that you wish the kids already had or did have or whatever. Um, it's just unrealistic for them to assume that that would be a benefit right off the bat. You know, when you dating people, single people, let's just two single people, you immediately just have certain expectations. You just assume that they're gonna respond to your text message in a timely fashion. You assume that we can go out and have dinner tonight. We assume that um, you're going to respect me, my time, my efforts, my job, you're going to listen to me. We assume certain things when we're dating people as single individuals. You can't have the same expectations going into a single mother, single father relationship. It just doesn't exist and it doesn't work like that. And I think um, you would have to change your mentality from from one way to a other way. You can't think that you can come into this dating a single mother and she's going to have the same flexibility. And as a single mother, you can't assume that he's just going to automatically accept everything that comes with you. I think earlier, Danila said that he don't want to see the kids. He don't want to be around the kids at first. He want to first get to know you, and then we can introduce the kids later. I think that's a great mentality. Like, and if you're going to go from dating single people, like a person that has no children, to a person with kids, you would have to switch your mentality from black belt to Nilla's, and or vice versa, switch back and forth. But you can't have the same mentality going from different situations.
Excellent points, Jamal. Appreciate that. And Tatiana, from a woman's perspective, what would you say are some of the unrealistic dating expectations that some single moms have?
I thought about maybe like one would be that the guy would be a replacement for the father, especially if the father of those children is alive. I don't know. There could be many scenarios about that, or to be a perfect father figure, especially if they don't have kids of their own. Maybe this is their first experience being directly in charge or in responsibility for other people, like children. So it would be unrealistic to expect that they were going to get it right 100% of the time. So I just put those two up there.
Nah, that's good. That's good. So, CEO, anything you want to add? Circling back to you.
Everything the panel said was pretty much spot on. I guess like the unrealistic expectations of the person coming in and already knowing what to do from day one. Like there's some single men who they've been single their whole life. Like it may not click in their head that when they go to the grocery store to buy a 64 carton of eggs as opposed to the 12 that they normally keep when they're at home by themselves. So for her to have that unrealistic expectation where you should know what it's like to take care of a entire family, me, you, the kids, it's something that's brand new to him. And I also think it's something that he should be eased into and not something that's just dumped on him all at once. So I do think that's an unrealistic expectation. I also think it's an unrealistic expectation to where, depending upon how long they've known each other, especially in the beginning, she's dumping all sorts of financial issues on him that have to do with her taking care of her house. I don't think that's his responsibility either. And that is an unrealistic expectation because then it causes that man to wonder, are you really with me because you want to get to know me and know who I am? Or are you with me because you're having trouble paying this bill this particular month?
No, that's real. Yes, black belt.
Oh wait, no, my bad. I forgot the other gentleman didn't go yet. I can wait.
Okay, no problem. So circling back to you, Daniela, anything that you want to add after having heard what the other panelists have shared tonight?
I think everyone's covered it, but just to reinforce what Jamal was saying, in the sense of taking it from both sides of the coins, for the men in particular, you'll never be priority. So if that is something that you can tolerate, which was something for me at the earlier stages of my dating, I don't need you to prioritize me. Prioritize your kid, so that I get to learn through conversations and our interaction what you are like as a human being. I've got my career that I need to prioritize at the moment, so let that dynamic sort of work out, and we'll communicate it back and through. But for the men, you have to understand that she is going to prioritize her children, and if that's something that you cannot take on, just don't date single mothers, in a sense. And I guess also in the saying that we shouldn't demonize men who chooses otherwise. It's your choice at the end of the day, and what those decisions are going to be essentially what the effort you put in will reflect. And the other thing too is, especially with the women who's had to step up and have their own career and look for their own home, that sort of stuff, they're going to be quite combative. So if you're someone who's used to, women who are usually well-mannered to a certain extent and, don't usually push back, most single mothers, especially the ones with career, will be pushing back with majority of the things that you discuss. So if that's something that's not up to you don't want to go through that on a daily basis, it's something to sort of look out for, and don't expect it to be an easy fight to a certain extent. I think the only thing for the women is that, you expecting a man to come in and date you is essentially going to be the father from day one, or a replacement is an unrealistic expectation, especially someone who's got no children in the first place at all. There is a certain process that you have to work through as a man in order to build those responsibilities on your own, and there's certain values required to be a father. But also at the same time, and this is one thing that I share with my son, who's not biologically mine, I will never be a replacement to your dad, and I'm not your stepdad. I'm your father, and so so the same as he. You get the opportunity, when you can process this with a maturity that is of an adult, to decide whether you want to build on the relationship you have with him or leave it as it is. But I'm not here to poison you and say, this is what he did to your mother, and he's a terrible human being. That's going to be your decision ultimately. So whenever you are matured enough to make that decision, it's up to you. But those expectations are often only when you are in the relationship. After so many months or maybe years of dating, you get into the relationship and you build that with the child. So for women to be dating a man and might tick all the boxes, don't expect them to be the father figure or whatever it is that you're looking for in the beginning stages. They will have to grow into it. And if they're willing to do so, vice versa, then let it happen.
Great points, man. So, I know Black Belt wanted to share something before we come to him. We're getting close to 9. Did anybody have to leave exactly at 9? Or are you guys good to go a little bit over? Everybody good? Okay, all right, perfect. So, Black Belt, coming over to you, man. What'd you like to share?
I was going to say that I don't think there is actually one extra thing that I'd say to the point about, I think single mom, unrealistic. If you're looking for a stepfather, and we're not even talking about just, playing, Captain Savior, but if you're just looking for a stepfather who's coming into the house and doing all this, admittedly, you're gonna have to put in more work than a woman without children. You're gonna probably have to sell yourself a bit harder. You're gonna probably have to go a little more above and beyond than a woman without kids, because you're already you're already coming in having a higher request or requirement for the guy. And I was gonna say, don't know where that comment went, but Andrea.
Oh, I think I know the one you're looking for. You're looking for this one? I don't understand why providing is an issue for men.
Yeah, I don't know where that went, but I caught it. Here's I will explain it to you, Miss Andrea, hopefully I'm saying it right. It's not an issue that men have for providing. That is not an issue in providing. It is that men want to ensure they're getting an equivalent exchange. For anyone who watches, anime, Full Metal Alchemist, there will be an equivalent exchange, value for value. So it's not so much that men have an issue with quote unquote contributing to the house if there's children, but I would say men want to ensure, okay, let me make sure this is something I want to go into, because I'll make it quick because I know Sorrel wants to say something, but let's just say I get with a woman and she has a 3-year-old. Things go great. We move in together. Now we're at 5. Now the children's 5. I'm just going to use the median woman's income because I don't want to do it too much more, too much less. The median Black woman's income, I think, is really 38, but I'll give her 50,000. If she makes 50,000, I make a certain amount that I make, and we're living together. Now, if I'm contributing to the mortgage, I'm contributing to the kids' health insurance, and so on and so forth, I need to know, okay, is this something I want to get into before I even get to that point? So I don't think providing in a pure sense is an issue of men saying, I want to be, Rumpelstiltskin or Mr. Leprechaun with my coins and not give it to anybody. I just want to make sure essentially this isn't a terrible deal. But that's it.
All right, before you go, I know CEO said he had to go, so I just want to give CEO the opportunity before you leave us, bro. Share your last words and let the people know how they can support you.
Well, I want to say thanks for all of the invites that I have had and the opportunities to learn and share. Salute to all of the panelists that are currently on at the moment, the ones that have been on for all the times that I've been on and been able to watch, and especially the people that are in the chat. Jay and Tatiana, keep doing what you're doing, and I will definitely see you all in the future. Like I said at the beginning, if you want to get in touch with me, Mr. CEO Status on Instagram and on TikTok. It's been amazing. I love it. I look forward to every Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you, bro. It's truly been an honor having you not only tonight, but your previous appearances on the show have all been great. And thank you for your continued support. And we'll definitely stay in touch, bro, for sure. And have a great night, bro.
All right, you too.
Thank you. All right, Sorrel, I know you had something that you wanted to share. By all means, the floor is yours.
Yeah, it's just a point I forgot about unrealistic expectations. And this is something that sort of came as not a shock, but someone had to mention it for it to sink in, because as mothers or as parents, our children are everything to us, right? So we have that unconditional love. So it's a very unrealistic expectation to think that this newcomer is going to share that unconditional love for your children. He should appreciate them as human beings, respect them, and again, going along with the whole greater good thing if he's going to be involved. But it's just not going to be the same type of overly emotional and this admiration that we have for our own children. It doesn't cross over. It doesn't no. So that's something I heard and I was like, oh snap, that's true. So I wanted to add that.
I appreciate you for adding that. Yeah, that's an excellent point. Jamal, I think at one point you had raised your hand. Was there something else you want to share?
Yep. I wanted to talk about men providing. It's not that men have a problem with providing, not at all. Yeah, I don't understand why yeah, it's not an issue. Providing is not an issue. And I think this is a human thing, but being taken advantage of is an issue. And so in the ties of this conversation, you can't expect somebody brand new, to Sorrel's point, you can't expect somebody brand new who doesn't have the same love for your kids, just met you. You can't expect them to want to financially provide for everybody. I don't even know quite how long it would have to be in order for a man to want to provide for everyone. This isn't like going to Applebee's and splitting the dinner or paying for a dinner. Like, that's not a problem at all. We're talking about bills and children. So there's not an issue with paying for or providing for a family. It's different if it's your own family, but if it's somebody else's family, it's not an issue with providing for that family. It's just that you're not about to play me. You're not going to take advantage of me. And I want to be fully invested in this thing. Like, think about that terminology there. It's an investment. If I'm invested in this relationship, I have no problem with putting in the money that you need towards an investment. But if I'm not fully invested in this thing, then there's no way you can expect me to put money for it. Like, I'm just looking at the product as a consumer, or I'm just looking at the product and thinking about the potential of buying in. You can't expect me to roll out the bankroll and invest fully into you, and I don't even know what this is about. Like, could you imagine? And I want females to think about this, but could you imagine paying somebody's bills for 2 or 3 months, 4 or 5 months, and then they just disappear because they don't got no expectations, they ain't got no ties to you. They just used you for that. So it's not a problem with providing for people, or an issue with providing for females or somebody else's family. It's just not one to be taken advantage of.
Nah, that right there is real talk, man. Real talk. So, yo, it has been an absolutely amazing show. Before we go, I want to give each of our guests the opportunity to share their last and their closing words. So we'll start with our first timers. Let's go with my lady Sorrel. Any closing or last words you like to share, and definitely let our audience know how they can stay in contact with you.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's been an amazing night. I'm very happy and grateful to have met all the panelists, had a wonderful time, the conversations. I've learned a lot, and I love these spaces because they're very dear to me, because I find it, or at least it's fairly new to me, having these conversations amongst our people, talking about our issues, the things, how we feel, and I appreciate the fact that I respect and appreciate the fact that we have different perspectives, and I think it speaks to how we choose to design our lives, how different we are based on how we were raised, where we come from, our experiences. So I always welcome different perspectives with respect. I always say, before you get into something, especially any relationship, but I'm going to say especially a relationship with like a single parent, that you know what you're getting yourself into. If it's good for you, because first it has to be good for you, right? Let's not kid ourselves and think, oh, forget about what you think, and just go with me because I need you. No, think about yourself, what you want. That's also going to have an impact on what you're able to offer, how genuine you're going to be to the relationship. And I try as much as possible to balance well between love and intelligence when making decisions. So yeah, thank you again for having me. It's been a pleasure. Keep up the good work, Tatiana and Jay Emmanuel. It's amazing. And I'm going to keep watching, and I'm also going to sign up to, I'm going to look all you guys up. So thank you for having me.
Yo, thank you so much, Sorrel. It's been such an honor. Your perspectives and the experiences that you've shared throughout our conversation have been amazing. I did drop a link to your channel in the chat. So you guys, like I said, open a new tab and definitely go and show her some love and support, and subscribe to her YouTube channel as well. Coming up to my man, Daniela, how can the people get in contact with you? And are there any last or closing words you'd like to share about tonight's topic?
Yeah, so social media is not really my thing, but as my experience have been over the last couple of months being part of World, I'm seriously considering it, in the sense that here in New Zealand, for example, there is a big rise in men sort of moving their own way, in the sense of there's a lot of battle between men and women in their relationship between each other. So I see that social media has influenced that quite a lot. So maybe in the future I might do a page or Instagram or TikTok, but currently you won't be able to find me because I'm predominantly just podcasting at the moment with Will. But in terms of sort of last words, I really appreciate the opportunity. I think I've taken away some very great lessons from tonight's panel, from everyone that's been involved. But not only that, to the guests who are, on the chat, sort of chiming in and giving in the opinion. If there's anything that I want to leave is relationship work, because there is work, and it takes two people to make that work. So regardless of whether you're dating a single mother or a woman without children, what makes that dynamic work is both of you putting in the work. That is from day one. There is no such thing as a relationship where one person or the other person have sort of broken it up. And one of the great things that I always discuss with a lot of men is that if you're for people to fall out of love, it's a constant repetition of a certain action or inaction. So for a man to lead a relationship and wake up one day and find out that your woman has stepped out and whatnot, that is a proof of your inaction as a man to lead your relationship. So in saying that, thank you everybody for allowing me to come on the panel, and thank you for listening to the words that I've shared with you guys. And even if you disagreed with some of them, I really, really enjoyed my time.
Oh man, it's been a pleasure. Yo, we definitely appreciate your vulnerability and your transparency, sharing your upbringing and your current relationship, and just the insights and gems that you share with us throughout the conversation as well, man. Thank you so much. And as you can see, we getting a lot of people in the chat, showing love. V is saying, as a single mother, she appreciates everything that was shared today, and we appreciate you for tuning in. Coming up to you, Jamal, any last or closing words, or also sharing how the people can get in contact and show you some support as well?
Yeah. So Jamal Nolan is me, and it's on all platforms. You can find my YouTube channel there. Also, my podcast, the Imperfect Podcast with Bourbon, who is in the comment section all night. Thank you. Very good podcast that we're starting to grow there. And I just want to thank everybody. It's not about me. So I just want to thank everybody. It was a great conversation. Start with Jay, um, being persistent and and very adamant about me joining the panel. I appreciate it. Told you I wanted to do it. I just was a busy person, busy guy. So I'm glad that I was able to make it here. Tatiana, you are a very smart, intelligent young lady. So I wish you the best as well. Sorrel, please get back on YouTube. I like the things that you have to say in your voice, and I'm not on TikTok, so not going there. So come on back to YouTube, Black Belt. I look forward to whatever you got going on the platform, and I appreciated your opinions and your thoughts on a lot of different things. And Daniela, man, your voice is needed, brother. Your voice is needed. So if you don't have any kind of social media platform, you should get one, because not only is your opinion needed, you got a cool accent, man, and this smooth voice. So, late night television or radio, something, man. You got it. You got it all. You got the microphone, got the chest out. Bro, you got it. So I appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much for having me. It was a joy to be here with you guys. It was an easy conversation for 2 hours. So I appreciate it very, very much, man. And yeah, thank you guys.
Oh man, thank you, Jamal. Truly an honor. And as you can see, it was definitely worth the follow-ups and getting you on the show. I knew it was going to be a great experience, and I appreciate you for being able to make the time, bro, for sure. And coming over to my man, Black Belt, you've been a multiple MVP here on the live show. You've been on the panel, always active in the chat, man. Definitely let us know your thoughts, your closing words on tonight's topic, and let the people know how they can show you some love and support as well.
Well, I first want to definitely say I appreciate you, brother Jamal, for the kind words. Definitely appreciate that, man. I'm still deciding if I want to bring back my social media. On the last time I was on here, I talked about how I got doxxed, and my law firm came to me and said, "Hey, what's this about?" So I'm deciding if I want to come back on here. But anyways, to the point, I appreciate everyone on here. I always enjoyed the perspectives. Jamal, Daniela, Sorrel, and obviously Tatiana and Jay. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. Hopefully anyone who does want me to come on their show, you can still hit me up on my YouTube channel. Even though I don't have any videos there, my email's there. So just hit me up. I'll pull up pretty much anytime, any place. And for everyone on the panel, I wish you all, eternal power, wealth, and influence in your lives.
Thank you, Black Belt. Yo, you already know, man. It's always an honor and a pleasure connecting with you, and I definitely look forward to staying connected. Tatiana, want to give you the floor, definitely to share your last thoughts on tonight's topic. Let the people know how they can support you, and then, since tonight is our last show, if there's anything that you want to address to our audience, by all means, the floor is yours before we wrap up tonight.
Oh man, yeah, I'm not gonna cry, guys, but I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be part of the Right to Real Love show. It's been going on since November, and we had some day ones since November. That first episode, and they're still here today. Some of them, like Tiffany Smith. Thank you all so much for joining us in the chat. Like every week, contributing your stories, getting to know each other, building friendships, and building community. And thank you guys for our chat friends who became our guest panelists and show family, like Dojo here with us, and Mr. CEO who left earlier. Man, that's amazing. Thank you all so much for your amazing perspectives, especially on this topic. I felt like we all come from different sides of what this topic is, and I love the respect and the realistic expectations and accountability that we have for single mothers. I have a single mother. I know single mothers, so I didn't feel any ways about what was discussed. I mean, stuff happens, and there's pros and cons, there's ups and downs to it. So I'm appreciative of the opportunity we had to share with our audience. And I hope that people really got something from it, not just in this episode, but in other episodes. So thank you, Sorrel and Daniela and Jamal and Dojo. Thank you guys so much for your constant contributions, not only to this show, this episode, but in your respective spaces and what you're doing. Your voices are needed, like you all said. Thank you. And thank you, Jay, again, for being an amazing co-host and organizer for all of this. So honest to you as well.
Thank you, Tatiana. And it's definitely been a pleasure. This has been an exciting road. My guests hang on for another 5 minutes. I just want to quickly do some last words before we jet. As Tatiana mentioned, there have been some of you who have been here since day one, and y'all already know I got something special for y'all. So I want to give a huge shout out to Tiffany Smith, Crystal Pulley, Ebony Essence, Cynthia, and Tanisha. Y'all have been here since day one. I appreciate it. And what I would say is this, get in contact with me. Some of y'all, I already have y'all contact information, but for those who don't, contact me, reach out to me. I got something special that I want to share with y'all. And then I can't forget my honorable mentions. My man Dojo, he's already here on the panel with us. We got Asia, JD Clay, Portia, Katiwe, and Ebony Shani. All of y'all have been instrumental. We had Portia and others who have sponsored shows and showed so much support to the show along the way. Use that contact information that y'all see right there to get in touch with me. And I promise you guys, I got something special for y'all. So reach out. And if I don't hear from y'all, if I got your contact information, I'll contact you directly. But I definitely want to do something special. And then clearly, this may be the last live show for Right to Real Love, but by no means am I done. I have another channel. It's Why We Succeed with Jay Emanuel. It's on YouTube. I put it up on the screen. You guys can go and check it out. The reason why I'm shifting to put my focus mainly on Why We Succeed is because there are only 6% of Black Americans in the U.S. who are entrepreneurs. When you consider that we're almost at the very bottom. Hold on. I don't want to cover up Sherelle's face. Hold up. Let me take that off. All right, there we go. So it's only 6% of all entrepreneurs in the U.S. that are Black, African American. And that really struck a chord with me because I know how many of us have the ability, the opportunities to go out there and start your own business. And I want to do my part in increasing that number and making sure that we have more Black entrepreneurs. I'm going to be focusing more so on helping those who have a desire to start an online business. So if you guys haven't already, definitely make sure you subscribe to the Why We Succeed channel. We're going to be returning with season 2 at the beginning of June. So definitely make sure you tap in. We'll have some great content and I look forward to it. But I just want to thank all of my guests who have joined us tonight, all of you who have been on the show previously. But thank you so much, Black Belt. Thank you, Jamal. Thank you, Daniela. And thank you, Sorrel, for being on the show with us tonight. I truly appreciate you guys. And thank you, Tatiana, for being an absolutely amazing co-host. This wouldn't be possible without you. You've been with me since day one as well. And I just want to say thank you. With that being said, you guys have an amazing, blessed blessed evening. And like I said, get in contact with me if you need anything. But we're out of here for tonight. You guys stay blessed.